Hey there, my name is Shane Craddock, and this is the Inner Edge podcast, where I share a different take on how to lead and live a sustainable, high-performance life. Over the course of different episodes, I'm going to challenge the belief that tension, stress, and struggle are essential to success and creativity. My experience is that there's an easier way, there's a better way, and indeed there's an essential way that we need to explore for the times that we live in. So let's go ahead, let's jump in and explore. Hi there, welcome to the Inner Edge podcast with me, Shane Craddock. Today's episode is going to focus, I suppose it was inspired by a talk I was given recently in Cork City, which is in the southern part of Ireland. Cork people call their county the Real Republic, the second biggest city in Ireland after Dublin. And I haven't been there for several years, maybe, 7, 8 years. I used to live there for 6 years, certainly early in my career. It's been a long time, too long since I was back, but it was really great to go back. And I was doing a talk with about 50 leaders in Cork City at a place called the Republic of Work, a very cool, brilliant facility actually for a kind of a co-working space where a lot of startups, mid-sized companies, and even some large companies use as a fantastic facility. There's a beautiful purpose-built area there for talks. So I was doing that, hosted with John Reardon, who is former chairman of Shopify International and also kind of a well-known investor and ex-Apple. And John is somebody that I've worked with over many years. And he was the host for it and also asked plenty of questions. And we also had plenty of questions from the audience, which was brilliant. But then afterwards, I hung around and I was chatting to different people. And I was obviously, the topic of the talk was Unleash Your Inner CEO. So I was linking it to my book and my take on the inner game and my work. There's some really great questions. Questions actually hadn't been asked before, which was brilliant. But then afterwards, somebody asked me, when everything was over, they come up to me and I was chatting to them and they said, I had a question that I wanted to ask you, but I didn't ask it. And it's a pity they didn't, because the question is very important. And clearly I hadn't done my job, or as good a job as I should have had in my talk, because the question to me is a fundamental one. So just to give you some context, I suppose I was talking about, and in the book early on in one of the first one or two chapters, I talk about, from my point of view, true success is like a double-sided coin, and on each side of the coin there are two games. The first side is the game of achievement, which is really the game that we've been conditioned into without realizing it in the Western world in particular. It's all about achieving my goals, achieving my dreams, getting material success, getting awards, winning. And it's good. I mean, there's, it's great. And there's been huge advances made on the inner side of the game of achievement, particularly over the last 20, 30 years. The psychology of flow, visualization approaches, the growth mindset, all of that stuff is really, really good. But there are some blind spots in it from my point of view, which I'll talk about a little bit today. And then the second side of that coin, I think, is a very interesting one that most people think the first side will give them. The second side is the game of living, and probably living with a capital L. So most people think, well, when I get what I want, then I will feel a certain way, as in I'll feel alive, I'll feel fulfilled, I'll have peace of mind. And that isn't the way actually reality is set up. And so what I was saying to the room was like, look, I think the game of living, one of the metrics there is really your state of being, or your sense of aliveness, or whatever that means to you, because it definitely comes into the realm of purpose and meaning and fulfillment, and just your overall sense of what I would call almost va-va-voom, having your spirit high, enjoying the moment, feeling alive. That's the game of living with a capital L. And in the book, I talk about the aspects of both from my perspective as somebody who's traveled along that road, explored it on the inner side of both games, and then also worked with a lot of people over the last 23, 24 years in terms of trying to help them to navigate both games. And as I said, clearly I didn't do a good enough job, because when the guy asked questions, he said, listen, do people exist that actually have been able to integrate both games and that they can succeed in both games? And the answer is absolutely yes. From my point of view, there are too few people actually who I think are succeeding in that area. Most people are too focused on the game of achievement and not understanding how the two games work together and bounce off each other and almost are synergistic if they're done the right way. And I've spent time over the last 24, 25 years seeking out people to learn in both games. And the book, in essence, is about how to integrate the two games so you can succeed at both. So, yeah, as you can see, a pretty fundamental answer to the question that should have been in my talk. It will be from now on. And so I just thought I'd record this little audio here to maybe emphasize that, because from my point of view, when I first got into the inner world and started to explore it, my motivation was pain. I'd come out of pretty serious depression. And so I would just, give me anything to make the pain go away. And so what was obvious right in front of me was there was information that I could find around the psychology of achievement. So I got very into that. I got very into the world of, this is back now in 1997, 98, so it was a good while ago. I got into the world of Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy. I got into the world of just winning in sports. At that time, it was still an early thing. It brought me into the world of flow, which was being pioneered by Professor Mihai Csikszentmihalyi from Chicago, which was also very interesting in a different context. So I just got very into the psychology of achievement. And it made a big difference. It made a big difference to my ability to set goals, imagine goals that I thought were out of my reach initially. And I made progress. And so it made a difference. And over time, that was my primary focus. I came across stuff, even in the context of flow, which was maybe touching off the realm of the game of living with a capital L. But I didn't really buy into it. I thought that was more almost in the spiritual domain, which at times it kind of is. But I just didn't really get my attention until many years later, when I probably had achieved a lot of the goals that I had set out to do. And then I realized something fundamental. And I've seen this then with clients along the way myself, is that you get what you want, but you don't feel the way you thought you were going to feel. And that's quite shocking to your mind. Forget about your mind. It's actually just quite shocking to you think, hang on a second here. I thought when I got the new car, when I got the new job, when I got X salary, when I got amount of income, when I got the award, when I won the competition, when I became CEO, when I set up my own company, when I grew the business from 0 to 10 million or 1 million, 50 million, 100 million, when I sold my business for X amount of million or whatever the thing is that you put in the X spot, which is your goal. When I get that, then I will feel a certain way. And what I discovered time and time again was I didn't really feel the way I was going to expect. Maybe for a couple of days you'd feel it, but then it would go away. And that brought me then to explore, say, hang on, I'm missing something. So let me explore something else, which I now call the game of living with a capital L. And that definitely is in the realm of, we're going to use the S word, spirituality. The problem, though, with spirituality, in my view, is that so much damage has been done by humans over the centuries in the name of apparent spirituality that it's a word that just, I don't know what it means anymore to anybody. It's tainted by religion, the actions of religious leaders and people. As somebody said to me there recently, religion is responsible for more deaths than anything else on the planet, which is true but shocking. And so forgive me if I just don't really necessarily think the word spiritual is the right way to go, even though it is a word that is important. What is it? What does it stand for? I think it stands for a state of being and having that sense of aliveness. And that's really what I explore in the book. And I probably haven't done a good enough job to maybe point that out, but I guess I'm pointing it out today. And if you're listening to this, I'm assuming you're somebody who's already recognized that the game of achievement, you're into it, because you want to do better. Maybe you resonate with some of what I've said if you're already into the game of achievement, for many years, and you're seeing actually, well, I thought when I do this, I get this feeling, but it isn't really lasting. So what am I missing? And if you feel that way, I'm going to point you towards the game of living with a capital L. But even if you don't feel that way, I'm going to point you that way, because what I've discovered is, as somebody who, I absorbed myself in the game of achievement, then I said, right, leave that. Then I 100% absorbed myself in the game of living with a capital L. which is all about being in the now, whatever that means, right? Being able to clear your mind, be more present, have presence, go with the flow of life in a way. But even that has limitations. And so what I've learned myself is that if I can put the game of living with a capital L first, I still need to use the game of achievement. So for example, for me, the idea for a book came in many years ago, The Inner CEO. It came in a certain way. I felt, okay, this is a book that wants to be done in my diluted state. And then I would still, though, learn what I've used from the inner game of achievement to make that happen, to write it, to have it produced to a certain standard, and then to get it published and now into selling it. It does require using the game of achievement. So to me, that double-sided coin probably needs to be flipped. I used to have very much the game of achievement on the top. Now I've learned, no, it has to be the game of living on the top with the game of achievement supporting that. And that is me, in my mind, taking the role of the inner CEO, which the inner CEO is that ability to step out of your mind, to become the proper observer of your mind. You use your mind, but you're detached from it. Why? Because you are not your mind. You have one. Just like you're not your phone, you have one. So maybe today is a little bit different to the normal episode. It was prompted again by that talk and that question afterwards, and it was a great question. And I think it's an important point I want to make. So maybe if you have the Inner CEO book, you can read it with that at the back of your mind. Maybe if you haven't got it, the Inner CEO is available on Kindle, Audible, and physical copy. And maybe there's people around you that actually you think will be open to or interested in hearing that take on events. For me, it's a very important message. And it's the main reason that I wrote the book is, I think, and what I've seen is that leaders become different and a better type of leader emerges for the planet and for communities and for their families when they prioritize the game of living over, with a capital L, over the game of achievement. But we still use the game of achievement in service to that. I hope that makes sense this week. That's it. Ciao for now.